If you are not healthy in your body, you're very likely to suffer physically. If you suffer physically, you're very likely to suffer mentally, emotionally, and even potentially spiritually. If you want to never be physically helpless to yourself, learn to become physically helpful to others. Because you are not breathing, the neurophysiological stress keeps going up and up and up and up. So, in order to have patience, or to have trust, or to have composure, you need to do it. It's an action. You need to establish it. You need to be the source of it. And once you become the source of it, then you become it.
On the show today, a bit of a legend, the founder of MovNat and well known in the natural movement world, also the founder of Breathwork. I've been working my way through his program. Also, I believe he holds a national US national record for breath holding as well. So not just talk, this man can walk the walk. Welcome, Erwan Le Corre.
Thank you, Mark. Wonderful introduction. Appreciate it.
I've been deep in your stuff and really enjoying it. Why don't we dive in the deep end? Let's start with the movement side of things. Big question. Why does movement matter?
We're meant to move, physiologically speaking, we're meant to move. I remember that TED talk where a neuroscientist said that there are those little organisms that are floating in the ocean and they have a tiny brain. The moment they stick to a rock and do not need to move anymore, the first thing that happens is that that little brain dissolves, which means that there's an obvious correlation between having a brain and the necessity to move. So, our cognition, our mind, our consciousness, basically brain, cognition, consciousness, is linked to our ability to move. And we originally have a certain way to move because today movement is optional. And when we decide to move, then we have a plethora of modalities to choose from. Is it going to be yoga? Is it going to be working out of the gym or something else? But originally, when we universally as a species did not have all these options, how did we move? Well, that is what I coined as natural movement. That means walking, running, balancing, moving on all fours, hanging and climbing and jumping and landing and so forth, which interestingly is exactly what we all did, you, me, our listeners, when we were kids, because it's a program, it's what nature wants from us. So that's why it matters. If we started our life with such a drive to move and to acquire our foundation of movement, starting with standing on our 2 feet, walking, etc., there was probably a very important reason, a vital reason, and we probably should never stop doing that. We should probably actually become always better at doing that. So, yes, it does matter. And everybody knows that when you do some movement, you have endorphins kicking in. And even if we didn't know anything about the science of what movement or physical activity can trigger in us, physiologically speaking, from experience, everybody knows that when you move, you feel better in the moment and you also feel better afterwards. So, just for the well being side of things, movement matters a lot.
Mm-hmm. Growing up, there was sports, and then a new thing came along called the gym. I came from a little town in the countryside in England, so that was we're a bit behind the times, maybe compared to somewhere in California or whatever. But the gym came, and people got track suits. That was a thing, and then the gym became where people exercised. It was either on the tennis court, sports, played football. Maybe people had bad experiences in school if you weren't picked for the team or you weren't naturally competitive. And a lot of that natural playfulness that children have got kind of ground out of people, I found. Any thoughts on the sort of industrialization of movement?
Yeah, maybe we could use, I would suggest the word centralization as opposed to decentralization or centralization, or like you said, industrialization, or let's say formatting, standardization. making things, in this case, our physical activity or activities, standard or conventional, making our body to abide to norms that were created for us and not actually based on that natural movement drive that I mentioned earlier. And that's maybe what's the problem. And actually, when I say maybe, the maybe is very optional because in truth, it is the problem. The problem being that when we are kids, we it's so both fun and hard to learn to move. We have so many skills to acquire before we become good movers. And then finally we're there. And we can hang and climb and again and jump and land and balance and do all these things. And we have so much fun doing that. We want to do it all day, only to be told
Mm.
by the adult world that it's dangerous, that we're going to get dirty, that we're going to break something, that we're going to hurt ourselves, all these reasons. So, in other words, it's not the right time and it's not the right place. And guess what? It's never the right time and never the right place.
Right. Your kids are sort of told maybe you can run in the playground, and even that's dangerous now, and climbing a tree is dangerous, and then sort of the box of where people can move gets narrower and narrower.
Yes. So,
Now,
so,
if
so
now if you move in public as an adult, it's considered sort of strange, right?
exactly. So we have this wild physical behavior, but it's not wild as in lacking, it may lack structure, but it does not lack purpose and it does not lack effectiveness. And there's so much health and vitality and meaning to it. And it's not optional at all. This is how every young human being is going to grow strong and healthy physically and mentally, and it participates also to their emotional health. Now, this is being harnessed. In fact, it's not even harnessed, it's just restricted and limited. Only so that at some point, after we are good boys and good girls and behave very well, being able to sit still and listen and not unleash that drive and that amazing potential for natural movement, then one day when we are 12, maybe 15, or then even like 20, and a young adult, we're telling them, oh, so you lack physical activity. You're not in shape. You should do some physical activity for your health, for your well being. How about you here? This is the environment. This is the gym. You have exercise machines. Why don't you sit there and perform those 10 repetitions on that exercise machine that is isolating your upper body muscles in a certain way? And this is completely mm, subjective, and in fact it feels like a factory. It feels like you said, that's the industrialization of humans physical behavior in a way that has nothing to do whatsoever with the way we are designed to move in the first place.
Hmm. About 15 years ago, someone sent me a video of a guy kind of rolling around and doing handstands, said, "Hey, this is cool." And I said, "What is it? Is it a sport?" I said, "No, no, it's just movement." And oh, that's wonderful. Kind of movement culture, which, there has been throughout time, people doing this, for a long time before that. But about 15 years ago, there was people like yourself, Ido Patel, later the kind of fighting monkey people, Rafe Kelly, like all sorts of different people now promoting, realizing something was wrong with the kind of factory model and promoting some kind of playful movement, outside movement. Now it's quite common to see guys doing handstands on my courses in the breaks, for example. I'll be doing a coaching course, so there's a bit of a crossover with the guys who do sort of, natural movement work, and they'll be, doing handstands or hanging from bars like monkeys. And it's wonderful. It's really seems to have come a long way in the last 15 years since I became aware of this trend.
I hope so, and I believe so. In fact, yes, there is now, okay. proportionally to the whole modern mankind, let's say in let's say maybe the Western world, the the size, let's say, occupied
Mm,
by the movement, if I may say, movement culture, including a diversity of modalities, ranging from, again, yes, calisthenics, parkour, MovNat, natural movement, and whatnot, has grown in size a lot. And I certainly believe that, yes, the original gangsters that I am and a few others are, or were, or still are, um, has played an enormous role in setting that trend and originating it. Because before that, before us, it still was mainly the gym. That's it. So a bodybuilding type of approach to exercising as opposed to movement. And then COVID, and then the internet, and all these social media platforms, there is an explosion of, let's say, players in the field that are showing beautiful things, beautiful skills, beautiful sharing beautiful knowledge. But overall, as a proportion to mainstream fitness, it's still a
mm,
niche, still not everybody. And so it's wonderful. It's growing in the right direction. Um, my direction is still a little more specific because I'm really what I have at heart is the physical education part of it, is really the real world physical capability.
mhm,
Because in the movement culture, you can have anything, any form of dance, then is movement. Tango is movement. Tai Chi is movement. Yoga is movement. Doing handstands is movement. In the end, then you could even say bodybuilding is movement. I mean, it's a movement. So I like to talk about the practicality of movement in the real world. Means what are you going to do with your body that is not just effective and efficient, but that could be put to use if something happened where you are maybe in a tight spot or somebody else is, and you need a quick response to help. That's the original mindset that I've inherited from. It's a legacy from a long line of people who were um, the pioneers of physical education before the modern world made it more sports-like, super specialized, and then the commercial world made fitness a plethora of programs and protocols where you basically pick from the same way you can say, I want to eat Mexican or I want to eat Chinese. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Uh,
mhm.
but yeah, it's beautiful to see that movement keeps growing. And hopefully more and more people realize, okay, it's not just about what the body looks like. It's also what I can do with my body and how it makes me feel when I do.
Right. I worked on farms when I was a teenager, and I very quickly realized the sort of the old strong farmhands didn't look like bodybuilders. They had a sort of different kind of strength, and they didn't look the one. Recently, I moved house, and it's the same thing. Every time you move house, there's some guy comes around, and you look at him, and you think, "Is he going to be able to move my stuff?" And then, he's way better than the average gym guy at moving stuff, and the physicality there is there, even if he doesn't look the part. In terms of the movement, are there any issues with that today? So while we celebrate it, acknowledge that it's still a minority pursuit in many ways. For example, I see a sort of flashiness, people or people dedicating hours a day to doing a handstand, and I just think, why? You want to do a one-handed handstand? Why? That's not functional in any sort of life sense. I mean, maybe there's an art to it, and they develop themselves through that art. It's certainly aesthetic, or there's a sort of the Instagram influence of things that look good, things that look particularly flashy. Any thoughts about the kind of the direction that it's gone in that time?
Oh well, it's Mark. It's a choice. It's a choice. It's the same way some people decide to not train their body at all, to not have any physical activity. It doesn't seem to be a choice, but basically it is one. And when you decide that you are going to be physically active, then you also have a large choice of modalities and programs again. Now, you can specialize within a specialization. So let's say you mentioned that example of somebody mastering the handstand, maybe mastering the one arm handstand. And maybe it's only the right arm and not the left arm. So now you have a specialization within a specialization within a specialization. That would be akin to, let's say, you specialize in running. So now you become a very good runner. Okay. So you don't you're not good at swimming because you don't spend any time swimming. You're not good at lifting anything heavy because you don't spend any energy doing that. You're not good at climbing anything because you don't spend any time, any energy doing that. So you are not skilled or prepared to do any of the movement but one, running. That's just one example. But what running are you talking about? Are you talking about a marathon? Are you talking about sprinting? Are you talking about trail running? Um, are you talking about ultra marathon as a trail? Are you talking about running with those new shoes with carbon plates inside of them, or are you talking about running barefoot? Which one? And so very few runners are actually generalists of running. So not only as a runner, you're a specialist of movement, you're movement specialized running, but then you also choose a running specialty within the specialty, which is running. Is there something wrong about that? Well, it depends on what's your mindset and what your expectation is. Look, if you're an artist, you're a painter, it's very likely that you're going to develop one style, let's say Georgia O'Keeffe, and her style is unmistakable. You know right away that's a Georgia O'Keeffe painting. Why? Well, because she doesn't paint like Picasso or like Van Gogh or uh, some other famous painter. She has her own style the same way other painters have their own style. So basically, they're all painters. They're artists within that field of art. They're not sculptors. They're not no. They're painters. So they specialize in painting. Then they specialize in either oil or something else, and then they specialize with their own style. Is it abstract, abstraction? Is it pointillism? Is it something else like that? It's up to them. Why? Why are they doing that? Why are they so specialized? Well, it's because they enjoy it. They personally enjoy it. There's nothing we can say or should ever say about why anyone chooses any given option, that it is to not train physically, that it is to train physically a little, that it is to obsessively train physically, that it is to be a generalist or to be a specialist, etc., etc. Now, from my perspective, the mindset is preparedness and capability, physical capability in the real world. What does that mean? That means that, let's say, what would be the closest mindset of professional? Probably a firefighter. So you're not going to expect from a firefighter that they're just good at climbing a ladder very fast and very skillfully up and down. No, you hope that they're also strong enough to drag a body, pull and lift and carry a body, or maybe jump and climb something, and not just hose the fire with water. I mean, that makes no sense. So you expect them to be generalists. Why? Because it's about saving lives. And in order to save lives, you know that you have a variety of situations that could occur that are troublesome situations where you need a very quick, very skilled, very competent, very capable physical response. It's not just a physical response, but the foundation is your physical response. And you want them to be ready in all that diversity of responses. Okay, so my approach to physical training and physical preparation is that what I believe physical education should be for all kids is that they should be able to be capable in all these diverse ways that basically this is the reason why we have those natural movement abilities in the first place is so that we can climb, we can jump, we can crawl, we can balance, we can lift and carry, you can do all these things. And the last thing I want to say, why is it that on social media we see people being very, very specialized? Well, it's the algorithm too.
Yeah, something
The most,
exceptional stands out. Yeah.
yes, the algorithm, it's that simple. So you can literally post the same thing that you do every day, just a little different, and the algorithm will reward you for doing that because you are the handstand guy or you are the whatever mobility girl or whatnot.
Oh,
Okay.
anything consistent.
Yes. So it does influence the way people approach their practice, at least the people who, let's say, display themselves on social media publicly online. For that reason, there's a reward in terms of following, and therefore in
Mm,
terms of
mm.
their business or their dopamine, their whatever it is that they
I
get.
mean, let's get a bit more philosophical. Movement. People tend to think of it in the Western world as just sort of for health, something like that. If we look at, say, the Greeks or the samurai, they would see it as character education, moral education, part of being a Greek or a samurai or whatever, the culture, there's certain cultures that develop that idea. Do you think movement still can be a moral education?
In my point of view, it is, but um, we have to discuss what morality is, because some people believe that there is no morality, that there is no absolute right or wrong. Well, that's the basis of morality is what is right and what is wrong. So when it comes to the body, what is right and what is wrong? Well, uh, the Romans said, a sound or a healthy mind and a healthy body. That was for a reason. So we would agree that it's preferable and desirable to have a healthy mind and therefore to have healthy behaviors and healthy interactions with others, the people who are close to you, and generally speaking, with all mankind, to be a decent person. That's your behavior, but your behavior stems from your mind, and your mind stems from your set of principles. Therefore, your morality, what you believe is right and what is wrong, what is correct and decent and what is not, which is heavily influenced by culture or by personal choice. Okay. So when it comes to the body, what about the body? Is there a morality about the body? I believe there is. And it's maybe more personal. Probably it is. Why? Because your behavior towards other, if you're not a good person, it's not nice. And everybody's gonna tell you you're a jerk. Okay. But if you're unhealthy, if you are physically inept, if you are harming your body by neglecting it, not training it, not feeding it right, not sleeping enough, consuming really bad food, maybe some other substances that are this just not good for the body. Okay, well, your body is going to not be happy. That means your body is just going to be really unhealthy. Maybe you're going to be overweight. morbidly so. Maybe you're going to be very skinny, very weak. Maybe you're going to be very stiff with a bad posture. Maybe you're going to be um, out of breath very quickly, etc., etc. So, is that something that anyone can do? Yes. Is there social pressure for going that route? To a degree, but not that much, because it's more like seen as a personal choice. But in my worldview, individuals, I talk about physical morality, and it's basically a duty to myself to keep my body healthy, and not just healthy, but capable as long as I can. So I'm close to my mid 50s now, and I did not embrace that mindset 2 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I embraced it when I was about 15. So that's nearly 4 decades ago, 40 years ago. I made a conscious decision that when I would be an adult and as I would age, I would make myself, then maintain myself in the highest level of health and physical capability I can. And so far, I've been delivering. So my personal physical morality is that.
Yeah, lack of self-harm would be a basic, I mean, it's a form of violence in some ways, self-harm. And then I wonder if it also goes into sort of moral duty to others. Is it a moral duty to be strong, for example? And then sort of the psychological impacts of it. I wander around in a world where technology has made most of us sort of barely human in our weakness. I wonder if that doesn't impact, particularly men, I think, their sense of sort of efficacy, their sense of power in the world.
Absolutely, Mark. I completely agree with you. See, you could feel that I was eager to step back into the conversation because I love what you say, and I completely agree with what you say, which is that through physicality or lack thereof, there are implications for morality as that intangible side of morality, which is actually very tangible morality. It's so tangible because it makes us make certain choices and do some deeds or not do them or do them a certain way, etc. So it really our set of values and personal morality dictates a lot of our choices and behaviors in life. So if you are not healthy in your body, you're very likely to suffer physically. If you suffer physically, you're very likely to suffer mentally, emotionally, and even potentially spiritually. The people who are really out of shape or really unhealthy are going to be in any situation that requires a physical action or response, they're going to be helpless. This is not a judgment. It's a fact. It's an observation. They're going to be helpless. So they will need other people who are healthy, who are physically capable to help them. If there's a tight spot, if you need to run, if you need to jump, if you need, I don't know, a fire, flooding, a car accident, whatever it is. And we could say, well, yeah, but that's never going to happen to me. How do you know? Because it happens to people every day all over
Mhm.
the world. So you never know when it's going to happen to you. But so my credo, my ethos or the mindset is that if you want to never be helpless, physically helpless to yourself, learn to become physically helpful to others. In other words, when you train physically, if you think of not just what you're going to be able to do with your body, how capable you're going to become, how good you're going to look, maybe, how good you're going to feel personally, that's great. But when you, on top of that, add a layer, a moral of thinking, if anyone, my loved ones, my neighbors, perfect strangers are in trouble, they need to move, they have a problem moving, I could respond. I could respond quickly and effectively. I could help people, as opposed to yelling and calling 911 or filming the scene and
Yes.
doing nothing at all. You could be potentially, and not always, of course, because some situations can be dramatic and you could sometimes endanger yourself trying to help somebody else. Let's say, I don't know, somebody falls in the ocean, the big waves, whatever. But imagine a society where everyone would be physically equipped with the movement skills and the physical conditioning. That's the capacity side of things. So you have a competency, physical skills, then the capacity is how much strength, how much power, how much endurance you have. Would be equipped with that physical capability if it was a majority of people instead of being a minority of people. Can
Yes.
you see the change it would make in society? So
Well,
when you
I live
live
in
at
Slovenia, where it's a very fit. Sorry. So I live in Slovenia, which is a very fit country compared to most. I mean, there's still obese people here and things, but they massively sort of overproduce Olympic athletes, and people are very active here. A lot of outdoor kind of activity, particularly in Slovenia. And there is a different sense walking around, going, okay, there's other strong guys here, and there's fit people here. There's a different sense of that. One of the things I'm really interested in is the kind of loss of identity, particularly for men, and also the kind of sense of self that seems to be broken for so many people today. Even the last few years, I've seen this has got worse, that there's a feeling of people being not right, not in their own bodies. Part of it's the technology, part of it's some kind of critical mass of stress in society. Any thoughts on that, particularly what's changed? Something shifted in the last few years, really since COVID, where more and more people coming to workshops, just their nervous system's wrecked. They're at a limit, something in society break down as well as on the physical level. Any thoughts about how your work with breath and your work with movement can help with that?
or definitely because it's helping me with that. Because I'm a human being just like you, all the, your audience, all the listeners today, whoever. I too sense the, let's say, the energetic pressure and load or burden that is afflicting mankind. And I believe that part of that, and probably a large part of that, is engineered. That's
Hmm.
my, I don't think that it's just a societal, organic societal
Right.
change where all of a sudden everybody start to feel depressed, disempowered, and worried about the future and disconnected from others and losing their sense of joy and levity and innocence just like that, just because all that must be social media. It's not just social media. So all that must be AI. Oh, okay. Oh, well, it must be the vaccine. So it must be COVID. Or it must be this and whatnot. I believe it's the result of all these variables together combining. But when you pay attention to the news, you pay attention to influencers online, those who are in like political influencers, etc., and it's always grim, and you have to prepare for the end of the world. There are constantly messages telling you basically you have very little time to enjoy life as is. Uh, Things are, basically it's cataclysmic. So how, even if you dismiss it, how do you not, how does it not affect you even in the background of your psyche?
Right.
Because you're taking a dose of that dooms mindset, doomsday energy every single day. And it's the same thing as if you were to listen to a kind of music where the lyrics are a certain type of, I don't know, something obviously not really uplifting.
Yeah, like Fado from Portugal, something sad or melancholic or whatever, or
Exactly.
angry heavy metal or something.
Yes, or disruptive, or just a very vulgar, or etc. As or kind of book or kind of movies, any kind of or kind of people who think that way and talk that way. Don't you think at some point it's gonna make its way deeper in your psyche and start to affect your overall perception of the world and where it's going? Because we have two main tendencies, Mark, as humans. It's very simple, very binary. We have paranoia and we have pronoia. Paranoia is the idea that things are going to get worse, things are going to get to us. I'm a prey, I'm a victim, I'm vulnerable. The universe is hostile. I'm in danger. I've got to protect myself. Everything is gonna go to shit. Sorry. Um, I will not pronounce that word again.
Fine, it's fine.
But you know what I mean.
Sure.
So that's one very typical bias that exists in all of us for a reason, which is pay attention. There could be threats, organize, anticipate, don't fall into the traps so you can stay alive. So make sure that your anxiety level is high and constant because the moment you lower your guard, boom, you're going to get nailed and you're done. Okay, so that's the paranoiac mindset. The pronoiac is the one that says everything is going to be all right. I'm going to find the solutions. The solutions come to me. Oh, that's challenging. Okay, what's the opportunity in that problem? Etc., etc. And typically, the most successful people are those who they are not naive about the world or about people. They're not paying attention to potential threats, but just as a precaution, but they still focus mostly on what is good, what is pleasant, what's enjoyable, and that life is good and the world is going to be all right, etc. And it's a choice. It's really a choice. The world around you is not going to make that choice for you. My grandparents, my one of my grandpa did resistance during World War II back in the days in France. They the Germans were had invaded their area, and and then you have World War II, and then you have the atomic bomb, and you have the Cold War. And how did people live there with a constant fear that the whole world could explode with atomic bombs? And before that, that the Germans and the Japanese would take over and would be Nazism and fascism and totalitarianism all over the world, ruling harshly worldwide populations. How are we going to even want to be alive in a world like that? Yet it did not happen that way. But for years, anyone during that era could have thought to themselves, you know what, let's not even have children and let's not even hope for a better future. Let's not even try to create anything or better circumstances for ourselves since the world is going to shit and is already in big trouble. You see, you're either paranoiac or pronoiac. So today, I don't think that it's much different.
Yeah, I mean, it's think of the Huns invading or the Mongols or something. I mean, it's
Uh,
certainly not that bad, is it? I mean, there's Black Death. There's been plenty of other times with dark history.
I've not really answered your question though. Because you
I
were
like it though. God.
but yes, yes. So no, we don't have a problem with the Mongols and the Huns anymore, or the Goths and the Visigoths and the Ostrogoths and all the waves of barbarians that invaded and then became the whatever the
We
new
have plenty of
population.
barbarians invading the UK currently, but that's another topic and one that will get me banned. So
Alrighty. Don't start
I,
on it. But yeah, the idea of barbarians invading your country and what's funny is that today people think that that's not a threat anymore. Oh, it's absolutely a threat because human nature does not change. It circumstances change, history, context in many ways changes, but human nature uh, does not. So, but you were asking me how does movement or breath work could help with that? Well, of course, if you have a practice, if you because it's all based on practice, mindful practice. And by the way, if it's not mindful, then it's not a practice. So the idea is, and I'm going to not take a lot of time just explaining that part. I'll be very short. You are considering all the threats, you're considering all the influences outside of you that could impact you negatively, hurt you, harm you, make you sad, make you depressed, make you worry, etc., etc., etc. Okay. But that's outside of you. How much power, how much personal power do you have over yourself on how you feel and how you look at your personal sense of reality day to day and in the moment? And that is where each of us has a lot to say and a lot to do. So that it is movement, that it is breath work, breath holding, meditation, or other modalities. The question is, are you practicing your inner self through maybe your body, the movement, or the breath, the non-breathing? And also, are you practicing your mind? Who is practicing the mind? Nobody's practicing your mind for you. So it is the mind that you are practicing itself. What's the point of practice? You want an improvement. Duh. So you want to improve yourself. The mind makes the decision. I want to understand myself better, or even as fully as I can. And I want to have better agency, better control over my thoughts and my emotions and my representation of the world and my representation of myself, etc., etc. How does that happen? Not by watching TV, not by scrolling on social media, and not even directly by, let's say, reading self-help book. Why? Because, well, most of what you're going to look at um, outside of you will have a part of negativity. But even if it was all positive, even if the influence from the outside, you make sure that it was all positive, you still have to do the work on yourself so that it's from within and not positivity served to you from the outside, the same way you could take a pill to feel good. So you need practice. What is practice? It is that we like it or not, it is work. And work has to be done right. Consistency, effectiveness, progressions, so that we can improve who we are from the inside out. Then you choose a modality. Maybe it's natural movement, maybe it's dance, maybe it's meditation. Okay, what kind of meditation, etc., etc., etc.
we're a little limited on time. It's flown by. Fantastic. I wanted to ask you a bit about the breath work you've kind of moving to. It seems like that's been your focus of the last few years, the breath work. What led to that shift?
A desire to go deeper um, in my personal practice of my mind, of my inner self. And that's after having done, full disclosure, having done a lot of uh, let's say, natural psychedelics, um, in a very mindful way, but nonetheless relying on external plant molecules to alter my psyche, see what I could discover about myself and the world through that. And then I recognized the limitations of that and decided, okay, I need to prolong my inner work without any of that, without the outside impact or influence. And when I start to manipulate my breath, especially by not breathing, which is holding my breath, what I realized very quickly, because my point was to catch more fish, actually, because I was doing spearfishing.
Okay.
Okay, originally, very original points. Like, okay, anyways, I've always loved to hold my breath, to swim underwater. I had trained completely exploratively, I may say, breath holding before. But a few years ago, I was in Mexico and I lived by the ocean. I was in a fisherman village and I love to spearfish. And what kills the fish is actually their curiosity. So when you dive and stay there, what's going to make them come to you? Because you're not chasing the fish. There's no way you're going to catch a fish like that. You need to let them come to you. How? By letting their natural curiosity take over. So at some point they get closer to you because they're curious. They know you're there. They're wondering who you are, etc., and what you're doing here, etc. But in order to be able to do that, you need to hold your breath a long time and to do that repeatedly. Go back up, breathe, go back down, wait, hold your breath, etc. So I start to hold my breath on land to be more physically capable, again, practical, adaptable, physical preparedness for something very practical, which is hunting fish underwater. What I realized very quickly, Mark, is that it was a mental game. It was a mental and emotional game. The more clear and composed I was mentally, and the more emotionally stable I was, the longer I could hold my breath. But what would make me become, and remain mentally clear and composed and confident and patient and emotionally stable and resilient? Taking a pill? No. Drinking ayahuasca? No. Doing some breath work? No, since you're holding your breath. So you can use breathing to soothe your mind. As a matter of fact, not only you cannot use breathing to down regulate, to keep yourself calm mentally and physically, but because you are not breathing, the neurophysiological stress keeps going up and up and up and up. How do you maintain your cool? Well, is it even possible? And that's yes, absolutely yes. And that's the whole point, is that I realized that when I held my breath, it was not just a physiological event. I was actually creating an opportunity to grow psychologically, mentally, neurologically, emotionally, and even spiritually, all of it. How? Well, by triggering a stress that I could control. What's the stress? Holding my breath. Everybody knows that when you hold your breath, you become stressed out quickly, but turning that into an opportunity to be the source of the antidote. Antidote to what? To everything that we um, experience in our lives: impatience, frustration, doubt, uh, etc. Those are negative experiences of the human psyche. Well, obviously, when you hold your breath, you're going to experience all of that and quickly. What's the solution to that? Well, one is just breathe again and don't practice anything. The other one is keep holding your breath, acknowledge that it is stressful, become the antidote, produce it. So you're impatient? Of course, it's natural. You cannot wait to breathe again. But what's going to help you is to be more patient. But how do you have patience? Where does it come from? Do you order it on Amazon? Do you take a pill for patience? No. So you produce it. So in order to have patience, or to have trust, or to have composure, you need to do it. It's an action. You need to establish it. You need to be the source of it. And once you become the source of it, then you become it. You become that patience. You become that faith, that trust. You become that composure. There you have it now. It becomes the state in which you are, not by accident, but by mindful practice, by choice, by pure intention. The more frequently you do that, and even with more intensity, the more those events are going to change the biochemistry of your brain waves, and your neural circuits. So you are going to strengthen in the flesh of your brain the neural circuits dedicated to patience, to willpower, to trust, to composure, to all of those highly desirable psychological, emotional, neurological qualities. And when you do that, holding your breath, it's going to definitely carry over to the situations of your life that trigger you. Voila, that is the principle of practice, of self growth, of personal development. You call it whatever you want. The idea is to become a better version of yourself, not because of some external impact on you, but because of internal impact over yourself.
Oh, and I think that's a nice place to wrap up. I want to respect your time. Thank you. I have been enjoying your breath course, and I'll be practicing it over the next few weeks. I'll let people know how that goes. And yeah, where do people find you online? Where's the best place to look you up?
For this breathful work meditation practice, um, the website is breathholdwork.com. For natural movement and the method for training those natural movement skills, that would be MovNat.com. That's MovNat.com. MovNat, moving naturally or moving in nature. That's it. And I'm also on Instagram, even though I don't really do social media much. But for my methods and my courses and workshops, those are the two websites, breathforward.com and movnat.com.
Erwin, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you to everybody who listened.